Picture this for a second. It is a rainy Tuesday. It's pouring sideways against your office window, your coffee went cold an hour ago, and you are currently doom scrolling through real estate listings in Thailand.
We have all been there.
Right. You see this beautiful villa with an infinity pool, and it costs less than a parking space in London. It is the ultimate tropical daydream.
It really is. But the problem with those daydreams is, well, they don't usually come with a structural survey or a tax bill.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we are tackling today. You've decided you want a slice of paradise in Thailand, but now you're standing at this massive fork in the road. Do you go for the heavyweight champion, which is Phuket, with its luxury villas and constant buzz? Or do you choose the scrappy contender, Krabi, with those iconic limestone cliffs and that quiet, untouched vibe?
It's the classic battle, and frankly, people often frame this entirely the wrong way. They think they're just choosing between a busy tourist trap and a quiet beach.
Which isn't the case.
Not at all. If you actually dig into the market data, you are choosing between two completely different asset classes. You're looking at a mature, highly stable market versus an emerging, high-potential market.
And to help us figure out which of those aligns with your wallet and your lifestyle, we are doing a deep dive today into a really incredible stack of market intelligence. This all comes from Ocean Worldwide. And I want to flag this right up front because in real estate, context is absolutely everything.
Oh, 100%.
These aren't just, influencers with a drone and a travel blog. Ocean Worldwide is a luxury real estate agency that has been physically based in Phuket since 2004.
And that specific year, 2004, that is incredibly significant for anyone looking at this data.
Why is that? I mean, beyond just being 2 decades ago.
Think about what happened in the region in late 2004, the Indian Ocean tsunami. For an agency to establish themselves then and navigate that massive recovery, and then weather the 2008 global financial crash, various political shifts in Thailand, and then the COVID pandemic.
That is some serious staying power.
Exactly. There's what we call absolute market resilience. The director of the agency, Sandra O'Neill, she has personally helped thousands of families and property investors navigate those exact turbulent cycles over the years. So when we look at their insights today, we aren't just looking at a snapshot of what is hot right now. We are looking at 20 years of proven trend lines.
That's a great point. Longevity is basically your credibility in a market that can sometimes feel a little bit like the Wild West. So let's get right into the ring here. In the blue corner, we have the Grand Dame, Phuket.
The established older sibling.
Right, the one who went to business school and drives a nice car. It is known for the glitz, the glamour, the Michelin star restaurants. But let me play devil's advocate for a second. When I hear the phrase mature market, my brain automatically translates that to expensive and stagnant. If I am an investor looking to really grow my capital, isn't Phuket the wrong place? Hasn't that ship already sailed?
That is the absolute million-dollar question. And if you are looking for explosive, overnight, crypto-level growth, then yes, Phuket isn't your market. But here is the major counterargument that Ocean Worldwide emphasizes. You do not buy into Phuket for the explosion. You buy it for the liquidity.
Liquidity. With house.
Well, relatively speaking, yes. Because Phuket is a globally recognized brand, it's akin to Ibiza or the Hamptons of Asia. Because of that status, there is always a market.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right. If you need to offload a villa in a prime area on a random Tuesday, there is an existing active buyer pool ready to step in. In a newly emerging market, you might be holding on to that asset for a year just waiting for a single viewing. You pay a premium in Phuket specifically for that ability to exit.
Okay, let's talk geography for a second, because Phuket is actually a pretty big island. If I'm looking for this blue chip, highly liquid investment, where exactly am I dropping my pin on the map?
You are going to be looking primarily at the West Coast.
The famous sunset views.
Exactly. Think of it as the Millionaire's Mile. You have areas like Kamala and Serene, which are deeply upscale, huge cliffside villas. And then slightly inland, you have Tranquil and Bang Tao, which have essentially become the absolute epicenter for high net worth expats.
That's where the Laguna complex is, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Laguna, the golf courses, international supermarkets, the Boat Avenue shopping district. It is highly developed.
And what is the price tag for this level of convenience and liquidity?
It is steep, I won't sugarcoat it. An average solid 2-bedroom condominium in these prime areas is going to run you between 150,000 to 300,000 British pounds, and it goes up from there.
And if I want the private pool?
Yeah.
The 3-bedroom villa?
Then you are looking at 300,000 to 700,000 pounds just for a standard upscale build. If you want that uninterrupted ocean view, you are easily crossing into the millions.
Wow. Okay, but I also saw in the Ocean Worldwide data that there are more accessible areas.
Yes, down in the south, areas like Rawai and Naiharn, they are a bit more relaxed, a slightly lower price point. You don't get the same immediate beach access for swimming like you do in Bangpao, but it's a huge expat community.
Makes sense. It's a massive, diverse ecosystem. So that is the Grand Dame. Let's swivel our chairs and look at the green corner. Krabi.
The up-and-coming challenger.
Right. If Phuket is the polished sibling, Krabi is the bohemian sibling who went backpacking and just forgot to come home.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
The visuals there are just insane. The emerald waters, those giant limestone cliffs towering over the beaches. It feels very untouched, very authentic.
It does. But we have to be careful with that word. From an investment standpoint, authentic often just means raw.
I feel like authentic in real estate listings is usually code for you can't get a good Wi-Fi signal and the roads flood.
Or the power goes out every time there's a heavy thunderstorm.
Yes.
But that is rapidly changing. The undeniable draw of Krabi is the entry point. It is drastically lower than Phuket.
How much lower are we talking?
You can pick up a brand new two-bedroom condo in Krabi for 80,000 to 150,000 pounds.
Wow.
Right. And a three-bedroom villa that would cost you $500,000 in Phuket. You could easily find something similar in Krabi for 150 to 350,000.
That is a staggering difference. You could essentially buy two properties in Krabi for the price of one in Phuket.
You could.
But there has to be a catch. The market doesn't just hand out 50% discounts purely for the beautiful scenery.
No, it doesn't. The catch is entirely in the infrastructure and the developer ecosystem. In Phuket, you have these massive, experienced international developers. The finishing is European standard, rigorous warranties, reliable supply chains. In Krabi, while there are a few stellar developers, you are dealing with a lot more localized, smaller-scale construction.
So the tropical charm might come with some, let's say, quirky plumbing.
Quirky is a generous word, but yes, you need to be incredibly hands-on with your due diligence regarding the actual build quality. Ocean Worldwide makes a great point here. You absolutely get more land and a better view for your money in Krabi, but the physical asset itself might require significantly more oversight.
And speaking of oversight, this brings up a huge topic, the management headache. I feel like this gets totally glossed over in the glossy brochures.
Well,
let's play this out. I buy my dream villa. I am sitting back in my rainy city. It's a Tuesday morning, and I get an email that the pool pump has seized up and the roof is actively leaking. If that house is in Phuket, what happens?
If it's in Phuket, you honestly probably don't even see the email until the problem is already fixed.
Really?
Yes, because the market there has been professionalized for 2 decades. There is a massive, highly competitive ecosystem of property management companies. You hire them, they have an app, they have a dedicated team of engineers on staff, they identify the leak, fix it, bill your account, and send you a time-stamped photo. It is a true set-and-forget investment.
Okay, and if my leaky roof is in Krabi?
In Krabi, that professional ecosystem is still very much in its infancy. You might be relying on a local contact, maybe a lovely local auntie who holds your spare keys, or a general handyman who also happens to run a boat tour business.
Oh boy.
Yeah. If that pump breaks, you might find yourself awake at 3 a.m. coordinating the repair via WhatsApp using a translation app to explain the intricacies of a water filtration system.
Which completely destroys the whole passive income fantasy.
Precisely. In Krabi, your rental yield on paper might actually look higher because your initial purchase price was so low. But you are paying for that yield with your personal time and your stress levels.
That's fascinating.
So the question that Sandra O'Neill and her team often pose to new investors is this. Do you want a higher yield with a side of headache, or do you want a slightly lower yield that lets you sleep soundly at night?
The management headache tax. I like that framework. Now, let's pivot to the people actually paying you this yield, the renters. We hear constantly about the digital nomad boom. Is that a real market-moving demographic, or is it just 20-somethings with laptops buying cheap pad thai?
Oh, it is absolutely a real driver, but it is effectively splitting the market in two. In Phuket, the demographic has actually aged up. We are seeing a massive influx of families moving there full-time.
Really? Full-time?
Yes. And the main driver is the international schools. Places like UWC or the British International School, these are high-net-worth families who are renting upscale villas for 3 to 5 years at a time. That is rock-solid, predictable rental income.
So they aren't transient tourists, they're residents.
Exactly. And the rental yields reflect that. A luxury villa in Serene or Bang Tao can easily pull in 2,500 to 6,000 pounds a month. Even a simple one-bed condo in Patong is getting 800 to 1,500.
And what about Krabi? Is that where the nomads are going?
Krabi is the true nomad and adventurer hub. It attracts the rock climbers, the divers, the people who want a slower pace and depth nature. You are seeing co-working spaces suddenly popping up all over Krabi Town.
But nomads are notoriously, let's call it budget conscious, right?
Highly price sensitive. They are hunting for value. So while your occupancy rate in Krabi might be fantastic because people stay for months at a time, the absolute ceiling on what you can charge them is much lower.
They're definitely not paying $4,000 a month.
Not a chance. A studio in Ao Nang might fetch 400 to 800 pounds. A decent 3-bed house on the outskirts maybe gets 600 to 1,200 a month.
But given the lower purchase price, the percentage yield is still okay.
Yes, you are looking at an estimated 5 to 8% in a tourist hub like Ao Nang, and maybe 3 to 5% in Krabi Town itself.
Okay, so we have growth versus stability. Let's get into the weeds now. The boring stuff that actually determines whether you keep your money or lose your shirt. Law and taxes. Every single time I research buying property in Thailand, the internet screams at me that foreigners cannot own land. Let's do an ELI 5 here. Explain like I'm 5.
Okay, simplest possible terms. If you buy a condo, meaning a box in the sky within a larger building, you can own it outright. That is called freehold. It is legally yours, just like a flat in London or New York.
Great. Any catches?
Only that the specific building must remain under 49% foreign-owned overall. But yes, you get a government-titled deed with your actual name printed on it.
Easy enough. But what if I want the dream? The villa with the garden that sits on dirt.
And that is where things get complicated. Foreigners generally cannot own Thailand in their own name, period. So you have two primary legal routes to achieve this. The first, and most common for lifestyle buyers, is a leasehold.
Which means I'm just renting.
Sort of. You legally own the bricks and mortar of the physical house, but you sign a long-term lease for the land underneath it. The standard legal maximum is 30 years.
30 years. That sounds incredibly short. If I buy at 40, I have to give my house back when I'm 70.
Well, developers typically write in guaranteed renewal clauses for another 2 terms of 30 years. But legally speaking, yes, a leasehold is technically a depreciating asset because the clock is always ticking down.
That makes me nervous. What is the second route?
The second route is setting up a Thai limited company, and that company buys the freehold land.
Oh, so I just start a company, own all the shares, and buy the house.
Not quite. A foreigner can only own a minority stake, 49% of a Thai company. So you need Thai partners. And this requires a massive warning flag. The Thai government is aggressively cracking down on what they call nominee companies.
What does that mean?
It means you cannot just pay a random local person $50 to put their name on the company paperwork while you secretly control everything. It has to be a legitimate, active business structure with real shareholders and real accounting.
It sounds entirely like the part of the journey where you need a very, very good lawyer.
You need a shark of a lawyer. And crucially, not the lawyer that the property developer recommends to you. You need your own independent legal counsel.
Right. Conflict of interest otherwise.
Exactly. And your lawyer's first job is checking the title deed.
I've actually seen this term thrown around in the Ocean Worldwide blog. Shenote. What is a shenote?
Think of a shenote as the gold standard of ownership. It means the specific plot of land has been scientifically surveyed using GPS by the government. There are physical concrete marker posts buried in the ground, and your exact boundaries are undisputed.
Are there other less golden types of titles?
Oh, many. There are titles like the Norsor 3, which are essentially older, vaguer land claims. They roughly translate to, I own the land starting from that big mango tree over to where the river bends.
And what happens if the river naturally shifts its course over 10 years?
Exactly. Or if your neighbor accidentally chops down the mango tree, the boundaries become a massive legal dispute. The absolute rule of thumb is never buy anything that isn't a full shenote title unless you are a deeply experienced local developer. Due diligence is simply non-negotiable.
Good to know. Okay, let's talk about the exit strategy. We discussed liquidity in Phuket earlier, but what happens when I actually want to sell? Let's say I buy a place, fix it up, and want to flip it next year.
You are going to run headfirst into the specific business tax.
That sounds ominous.
It catches so many foreign investors out. It is a flat 3.3% tax on the sale price or the appraised value, whichever is higher.
Ouch. 3.3% right off the top.
Yes. But here is the critical detail. It only applies if you sell the property within 5 years of acquiring it.
Oh, I see. So the government is actively discouraging short-term flipping.
Exactly. They introduced it to stop speculators from artificially driving up local housing prices.
So if I buy a cheap villa in Krabi, renovate the kitchen, and try to sell it 12 months later.
You have to instantly subtract that 3% tax from your profit margin. Plus, you have the standard transfer fee, which is around 2%, and stamp duty. You are essentially starting 6% in the hole before you even pay an agent's commission.
That is brutal for flippers.
It is. And this is why the consensus expert view is that Thai real estate is strictly a hold strategy. It is not a flip strategy. It is a marathon, not a sprint.
That is a crucial insight.
Sandra O'Neill and her team have seen this play out for 2 decades. People try to flip during a boom, and they just get destroyed by the transaction costs. The actual winners in this market are the ones who hold the asset for 10 years, enjoy the steady rental yield, and let the capital appreciation happen organically.
Speaking of enjoying it, let's pivot back to lifestyle for a minute. We are talking about buying a tropical dream, after all. We touched on nightlife earlier. I assume Phuket is still the undisputed party capital.
Oh, unquestionably. If your idea of a perfect Tuesday involves mega beach clubs, international DJs, bottle service, and luxury shopping malls that stay open late, Phuket is unrivaled. Patong is infamous for its chaotic nightlife, but even the upscale areas like Bang Tao have these incredibly chic, high-end beach lounges.
And Krabi's nightlife.
Krabi is sunset beers on a woven mat. It is wandering down the Aonang walking street looking at fire jugglers. It is vastly more chilled out.
I can definitely see the appeal of both. But what about actually living there day to day? Getting groceries, going to dinner?
The logistics are wildly different. In Phuket, you have excellent roads. You have ride-sharing apps like Grab, which is just like Uber, and you have metered taxis everywhere.
And Krabi.
Krabi is much more reliant on tuk-tuks, walking, and uniquely boats.
Boats as daily public transport.
Yes, some of the absolute best spots in Krabi, like Rayleigh Beach, are totally cut off by limestone cliffs. You can only get there by long-tail boat.
That sounds incredibly romantic for a 2-week honeymoon.
It is magic for a holiday. But if you actually live there, haggling with a boatman in the rain just because you wanted to try a specific Italian restaurant across the bay gets old very quickly.
The romance tax strikes again.
Exactly.
Now, one thing we haven't touched on is the weather. Seasonality. We all know about the high season. Everyone flees the European winter and goes to Thailand for Christmas and New Year. But what happens during the rainy season? From May to October? Does Krabi just shut down?
That is a major differentiator for investors. Phuket never really shuts down. The tourist numbers dip, sure, but it is a year-round economy.
Right, because of the expats and the infrastructure.
Yes, and they get different demographics.
Yeah.
Middle Eastern tourists often travel there in July and August, so your occupancy curve in Phuket remains relatively smooth. Krabi, however, specifically the smaller neighboring islands like Koh Lanta, can feel like a ghost town in the low season.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Many restaurants board up their windows. Some of the ferry routes between islands completely stop running because the seas are too rough.
So if I buy an investment property in Krabi, I need to financially brace myself for potentially zero rental income for 3 or 4 months a year?
You absolutely do. You have to budget for that seasonality.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here. We've looked at the grand dam of Phuket, we've explored the raw potential of Krabi, we've crunched yield numbers, we've scared everyone with the specific business tax, and we've navigated the Chinook title deeds.
We've been busy.
So, what is the final verdict? If a listener is standing at that fork in the road right now, who should choose what?
I think it boils down to your core personality profile as an investor. If you highly value brand recognition, turnkey convenience, and you want a fundamentally safe asset that you can liquidate relatively quickly if needed, you choose Phuket.
It's the blue chip.
It is the Toyota Land Cruiser of tropical real estate. It is expensive to buy, but it is incredibly reliable, and it will get you exactly where you need to go without much fuss.
And Krabi.
You choose Krabi if you have an adventurous spirit and a much longer investment horizon. If you want to bet on the future infrastructure growth of a region, and you genuinely don't mind getting your hands dirty managing a property in a less polished system.
I love that. It's the vintage convertible.
Exactly. It looks infinitely cooler, it is way cheaper to buy, but you might find yourself broken down on the side of the road on a Sunday trying to find a mechanic.
That is a brilliant analogy. Now, before we wrap this up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. We spend so much time in these deep dives talking about ROI, return on investment, strictly in terms of percentage yields, capital appreciation, and tax efficiency.
Yes, we should.
Right. But with a property like this, situated in an actual tropical paradise,
Yeah.
isn't there another metric we are ignoring?
There absolutely is. And I like to call it lifestyle ROI.
Lifestyle ROI.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, you can easily make a steady 8% return by dumping your money into a diversified ETF fund without ever having to leave your desk in that rainy city we talked about at the start. But real estate, in a place like Thailand, the best return on your investment might not actually be the cash. The return might be that entire month you get to spend there every January escaping the winter. It might be the memories of your kids growing up learning to snorkel in the Andaman Sea.
It's the qualitative return.
Precisely. You really have to ask yourself a hard question before you buy. Is the ultimate return on this investment the extra 2% yield sitting in your bank account? Or is it the actual life you get to live while you own the asset?
That is just the perfect perspective to end on. If this conversation has piqued your interest at all, or honestly, even if you just want to look at gorgeous photos of cliffside villas and torture yourself while you finish that cold coffee, you need to go straight to the source material we used today.
Yes, Ocean Worldwide. And I really cannot stress this enough. If you are genuinely serious about moving forward with an investment like this, you need a guide who has been operating in the trenches since before the iPhone was even invented.
Experience matters.
It is everything. Sandra O'Neill and her team possess an institutional memory of the Thai property market that is simply priceless when you are navigating an emerging, developing legal system.
You can find all of their insights, their market reports, and their current listings at oceanwwp.com. That is oceanwwp.com. Go read the blog, check out the data, and maybe, just maybe, start planning that tropical escape. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, and we will catch you in the next one.